Welcome back to WagerTalk TV. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio today with Ralph Michaels and Bryan Leonard. We're going to take a look at college football week 1. Guys, we're just less than 2 months away from college football. Excited about it. I know, the dog days of summer.
74 days, Marco, a little over 2 months.
Well, we're getting there.
I'm counting down in my head.
You're counting down to your...
74 days.
Okay.
Am I excited? Yes.
All right. Well, you're so excited. Let's start with you, Ralph. You got a couple games that you've looked at and circled in week 1.
2 games. 2 games that jump off 2 of my top plays. First on the board, USC minus 10.5 to Fresno. People overreact to last year's results and just look at what happened. Fresno, a 12-win team, did very well. USC, a 5-7 record. But you look at Fresno, they returned 9 starters. They are number 129 out of 130 in returning production. They lost their quarterback. They lost their main players. And to me, something that doesn't get factored in a lot, they lost one of the top OCs in the country, DeBoer, who did an amazing job at Eastern Michigan, did an amazing job at Fresno. He's now on to Indiana. You look at USC, you have a team that was 5-7 who has as much talent as any team in the country. JT Daniels is now a sophomore. You have 3 receivers that could all end up being in the NFL. I made the line 17.5, and I think there's plenty of value in this game.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. JT Daniels, true freshman last year, come in one of the biggest programs in the country and have to do that. He steps up this year. This team's going to be moving the football and will be a force. You have another game for us.
Again, another team that was a complete disappointment last year, and it was Florida State. But, this was a banged-up team. You had a first-year system in Taggart. I am a Taggart fan. Willie Taggart, look at what he did at USF. 2-10, 4-8, 8-5, 11-2. He took a nothing team, turned them into perennial power, and they've stayed that. 1 year at Oregon, 7-6, and last year was his first year here. You have a team that went to how many bowls in a row off a 5-7 season? You have a team that now returns 15 starters compared to a team in Boise that only returns 13. You have Boise with Ripien, who is now playing for Denver, or is at least on the Denver roster as we speak. He was 13th in the NCAA in all-time passing yards. You're losing one of the best production guys in college football. And again, in Florida State, while you don't return a quarterback, Blackman 2 years ago was starting. DeAndre got hurt. Blackman had to start as a true freshman. Now he redshirted in the first year of the Taggart system, learning all of the new offense. And now you have a guy who started 12 games, redshirted last year, coming back with a vengeance. Cam Akers was beat up. He was the best running back in football a couple years ago, the highest recruit in football a couple years ago, had 1,000 yards. And hey, it's September. It's the first week in September. It's going to be 95 degrees. You have Boise, who Florida State, I'm sure, is going to make him wear his blue jersey, play in that heat and humidity after having practiced all summer in Boise. Florida State's minus 3.5 or 4. My top play, week 1.
Situational-wise, can't argue with that. And you got to give Boise credit, though. Every year, they do schedule somebody big out of conference early in the year. Huge disadvantage for them because both teams have extra prep time. Obviously, the first game of the season, the better program usually prevails there. Bryan, we're going to go to you. Are we staying chalky as well?
I'm going to approach this a little bit differently. By the way, I'm a big fan of Florida State this year. I think that's a moneymaker.
I like them against Syracuse, too,
yeah,
later in the year.
I think
the
early
number's
in the year
crazy.
you make a lot of money off of them.
They're the second best team in the ACC, close to Virginia Tech in my book. And they had the number 2 recruiting class. I mean, Clemson was 1. They had the number 2 recruiting class in the ACC. All the talent in the world.
A lot of talent, great coaching.
Yeah.
I approach these a little bit differently. As we pointed out, we're still 74 days away. I want to get ahead of the number in these games. So what I like to do is give out a couple of games where I think the line is going to move. Then we can decide later on if we want to keep our bet or if we want to get off the bet or try for a middle or whatever we want to do. One of the games I'm going to look at is August 29th. And I'm a big believer that the power schools, the legendary schools, have a big advantage. Number 1, they've got the better players. Number 2, they've got the better coaches. Number 3, they got the better strength coaches. And everything they need for a strong strength school is what they have as opposed to the smaller schools. And in most of the smaller schools, the coaches don't stay there very long and they're moving them. And so a lot of times you're dealing with new coaches, new new systems on both sides of the ball. So I'm going to take a look at Arizona State minus 26 here against Kent State. Arizona State obviously is being home, and a lot of people Arizona State was plus 10 in turnovers last year. So a lot of people will look for some regression there. But Herm Edwards has just been a terrific defensive mind his entire career. And bringing in what he has brought in after all that time off, and he brought a new enthusiasm to Arizona State. Because if we remember back last year, we were looking to bet against Arizona State.
Yeah, nobody thought
they were going to be very good. But they ended up with the same record as the prior season and won their bowl game. So I think what they're going to do is, they got Sacramento State on deck. So there's no look-ahead situation here. And I think after the season they want to come out and they get a chance to blow somebody out. And, we talked to college coaches. I think the Flashes have the worst coaching staff in college football. They have not done anything, and they're not very good. The players are not very good. They had one win in FBS action last year. They beat Bowling Green, who was equally as bad as Kent State was last year. And if you go back and you look at Kent State traveling, they rarely travel west of the Mississippi. They haven't in the last few years. So this is a big game for them to go out and get a chance to see the West Coast a little bit in the sun in Arizona. I just think this game, the longer this game plays out, the more advantage the better team has. And obviously, I'm going to be on the 26th. I think it's lined up at least over 28.
All right, another one that you're looking at that opening week, you've got Duke heading to Alabama. A big number in this one, Alabama 31.5 we're seeing around town. What are you doing here?
It's amazing. Everybody loves Alabama. Everybody knows Alabama is overrated in the power ratings. Alabama has a winning spread record just about every year. I think I went back the last 10 years, their worst record was 6-8 against the spread. This is a team who beats expectations. And now you got a team, they've already got a game under the belt, playing Louisville the week before in one of those 1A games. Mm-hmm. And I think Rolf knows as well as I do that this Louisville team, I like the coaching moves. I think they got a good coaching staff. They don't have any talent at all. So people are going to see Alabama already one of the top 2 teams in the nation. I think they're just going to crush Louisville the week before, which would make more people want to bet on them here. And then we've got a situation for Alabama where they have Mississippi on deck. Now, obviously, it's a conference rival, but they beat Mississippi last year by 63 points, 66-3. I don't think they're going to look past anybody looking towards Mississippi. Alabama's going to look to air the ball out more this year. And anytime you've got the more talented team, and it's going to take you less plays to score, there's going to be more scoring in the game and a bigger chance to get away from that number. So there's going to be more plays in the game, and the better team's going to have a better chance to get more points on the board. Duke replaces 85% of their passing yards, including a top quarterback who was actually a walk-on when he went to Duke, and now he's going to the New York Giants, and 80% of their receiving yards. And Cutcliffe's a great quarterback coach. They've had a guy who's a senior this year. He's going to move back into the starting lineup. But you've got a Duke team. People are going to look at, hey, they had a guy that went to the NFL, and the Duke was one of those teams we made money on last year. I think Alabama just runs the ball right down their throat and scores as many points as they want here. The Duke secondary is not impressive to me, and I'll lay the 31.5 here because I think it's going to be 35 by game time.
All right, good stuff. Before we wrap this one up, Ralph, you always got some kind of angle. Do you have any angles for us for week 1?
Yeah, it really, it almost just agrees with Bryan's sentiments, talking about game 1, 30-point favorites. You have the entire offseason that you haven't hit anybody. You've only practiced against yourself. You're ready to go out and make a statement against weaker opponents. Well, going back to 2013, week 1, home favorites of 30 points or more are 76 and 60, 56%. So, not an 80% mark, but it shows you don't have to be afraid to lay 30 points if they cover 56% of the time. Oh, by the way, 30-point favorites every other week of the season, 194 and 231, 45.6%. So if you're going to pick a spot to play those 30-point home favorites, make sure it's week 1.
Good. And I do want to point out, since they do have that game earlier against Louisville, I don't know how they're going to count that as a 1A, 1B kind of thing. Right. But having that extra game under the belt, how many times have we heard some coaches say, having that extra game under your belt is such a relief to be able to do that.
For continuity, you can't get team speed in practice, so they will have a leg up, no question about that. Hey, guys, After your first purchase, you want to get $25 from WagerTalk? You can do it. Just after your first purchase, email at wagertalk.com. We will put $25 into your account for your first purchase. That's free wager bucks for you to spend any way you like. We'll be back with more here at WagerTalk TV.